There are moments in life when everything seems to converge toward a single point. You feel a restlessness in the air, as if the universe were trying to communicate something urgent, something essential. Signs begin to repeat themselves, coincidences grow more intense, and a presence, real or imminent, starts to circle your thoughts. It's not just a casual encounter or a fleeting passion. It feels as though someone is being sent to you, someone who carries a key to unlock the deepest, dormant parts of your psyche. This is not only about love or connection, it's about destiny, transformation, and the calling of the soul. In this video, we will explore the powerful signs that emerge when the right person is about to enter your life. Not just someone ideal, but someone necessary for your process of individuation. If you believe that nothing happens by chance, comment below, "I recognize the signs of my destiny." Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your support in the comments. It strengthens this space of awareness and allows us to continue sharing content like this. Carl Jung taught us that nothing in our psychic journey happens by accident. When someone appears in our life with intensity, carrying a transformative energy, it's not merely a matter of emotional affinity. It's a direct reflection of unconscious contents, seeking expression, recognition, and integration. In other words, this person is linked to our individuation process, the path of becoming who we truly are. Jung called projection the phenomenon of seeing in others aspects of ourselves that we haven't yet recognized consciously. Often when the right person shows up, we project onto them the qualities we long to embody or the shadows we avoid confronting. This is why such encounters are so impactful. They force us to look inward, to dive into the depths of the soul, to confront our complexes, and to awaken dormant archetypes. This figure may represent the anima or animus, depending on our gender and psychic structure. The anima symbolizes the feminine aspect in the male psyche, while the animus represents the masculine aspect in the female psyche. When we encounter someone who embodies these archetypal images, we feel a profound, almost mystical connection that transcends time and space. This encounter is not merely about compatibility or companionship. It represents an opportunity to integrate inner opposites, masculine and feminine, light and shadow. And if we are ready, these signs explode because our soul recognizes it is time to take a decisive step toward wholeness. There are moments when a simple meeting can tear through the veil of routine and spark an internal earthquake. Suddenly, something within us awakens, as if a forgotten or unknown part of the psyche begins to stir, take shape, and manifest. Such encounters don't happen by chance. In Jung's view, they reveal the activation of unconscious contents that have been waiting for a symbolic opportunity to emerge into awareness. It's as if the soul, through life's circumstances, orchestrated a catalytic experience. When the right person is about to appear or starts approaching our reality, the unconscious responds with intensity. Vivid dreams, synchronicities, and an almost mystical sense that something is about to happen become frequent. Jung called this synchronicity, external events aligning with inner states in a meaningful way, even without a causal link. In other words, the outer world mirrors the inner world, and the encounter with someone profoundly significant for our psychological journey becomes the perfect reflection of this dynamic. These encounters trigger what Jung called complexes, autonomous cores of emotion and unconscious memory. When a complex is activated, we feel a surge of emotion, overwhelming familiarity, an irresistible pull, or even inexplicable fear. The other person, in this case, is not just an individual, but a living symbol of something within us that needs to be faced. That is precisely the purpose of the encounter, to activate what was latent and ready to become conscious. Often, the approach of this person is accompanied by a sense of inevitability. Even without clear logic, we know something has shifted. It could be a reunion with someone from the past, a new connection that instantly feels profound, or someone who appears during a personal crisis. Whatever the context, the essential factor is that this encounter activates the unconscious, making the hidden visible and triggering an internal process of psychic reorganization. When this happens, it is common to experience intense emotional states. There may be joy, enchantment, and ecstasy, but also confusion, fear, and resistance. The unconscious does not manifest only through light. It brings forth all that has been repressed, forgotten, or denied. The person who arrives functions like a bridge, a key that unlocks inner doors we didn't even know existed. This doesn't mean they are perfect or ideal, but that they carry the energy necessary to trigger exactly what we need to work on to move forward in our journey. Jung saw these experiences as golden opportunities. For him, the goal of psychic life is wholeness, not perfection. The unconscious supports this aim, sending images, people, and events that compel us to grow, integrate, and become more aware of who we truly are. That's why, when the right person is being sent, don't expect only calm or comfort. Expect intensity, mirrors, and profound transformation. The unconscious is not concerned with the comfort of the ego, but with the authenticity of the soul. Therefore, when an encounter sparks this kind of inner movement, don't ignore it. It can be the trigger for a profound process of self-discovery. Observing dreams, emotions, instinctive reactions, and obsessive thoughts can reveal exactly where the unconscious is trying to act. The activation this person brings is not an end in itself, but an invitation to descend into the deeper layers of the soul, where our greatest unrealized potentials lie. If the unconscious is awakening with such force, it is because the time has come to listen attentively. When we meet someone who attracts us in an intense, immediate, and even inexplicable way, it is easy to believe we are facing a spiritual connection, an extraordinary affinity, or even a predestined love. While these elements may be present, Jung invites us to view this phenomenon through a deeper lens: projection. According to him, projection is a natural and inevitable psychic mechanism through which we place onto others aspects of ourselves that we haven't yet recognized or integrated. In other words, we see in the other what is actually within us. Projection works like a mirror, but not an ordinary one. It's a magical mirror distorted by emotions, desires, and unconscious needs. When we project, we don't see the other as they truly are, but as we wish or fear they might be. This explains why we so often idealize the person who enters our lives intensely. The attraction's power is not necessarily about who they are at their core, but about what they symbolize for us, the image we cast onto them. This process, though illusory on one level, is also profoundly revealing. Jung believed that projections are legitimate paths to self-knowledge, as they show us parts of ourselves ready to surface. When someone provokes disproportionate emotions, whether passion, fear, admiration, or even repulsion, we are in the presence of an active projection. Such an encounter carries immense symbolic value. Through the other, we connect with forgotten fragments of our own soul. Projection is not a mistake of the mind, but a vital function of the psyche. It allows the unconscious to manifest outwardly in symbolic ways, creating experiences that challenge and push us toward individuation. Still, it is essential to recognize when we are projecting, for remaining trapped in illusion can lead to frustration, emotional dependence, and conflict. The key lies in acknowledging the projection and withdrawing it, realizing that what we see in the other is in fact a reflection of what lives within us. Only then can we transform illusion into awareness. The other often carries an image that represents our unrealized potential. We project onto them the courage we lack, the sensitivity we repress, the spontaneity we stifle, or the power we fear to wield. Likewise, we project our shadows, traits we judge as negative or unacceptable, and therefore cannot recognize in ourselves. The anger we feel, the envy, the disdain, or the exaggerated fascination with the other, all these are signs that something is being projected. Thus, projection acts as a hidden guide, pointing us toward what needs integration. Meeting the right person does not mean finding someone perfect, but someone who activates our projections with enough intensity to make us work through them consciously. That's why such encounters are transformative. They unsettle us, enchant us, confuse us, and above all reveal the truth about ourselves. The other becomes a kind of involuntary alchemist, catalyzing a deep inner process without even knowing it. By recognizing projection, we begin to see the other more clearly, and at the same time see ourselves with greater honesty. This does not destroy the connection. On the contrary, it makes it more real. The love that emerges after projection is withdrawn, is no longer built on illusion but on acceptance and truth. That is when the relationship ceases to be a stage for the ego and becomes a space for mutual growth. Projection is therefore both trap and revelation. It is an invitation to see what was hidden, When the right person is being sent, our projections explode like lights in the night sky, revealing the contours of an inner landscape once invisible. The challenge is to use this light to illuminate the path of awareness, without getting lost in the shadows of the illusions it also casts. At the core of Jung's analytical psychology lies a profound and symbolic understanding of the human psyche. Each of us carries within the image of the other. For Jung, this image is shaped by personal experiences, cultural influences, and above all, archetypal contents of the collective unconscious. He called these inner figures anima and animus. The anima represents the feminine archetype in the male psyche, the animus the masculine archetype in the female psyche. These figures are not just symbolic, they directly influence our choices, perceptions, and relationships. When we feel that someone has been sent to us in a seemingly magical way, it's because that person somehow embodies the inner image we carry of the other. The encounter then becomes highly charged with emotion, projection, and symbolism. We are not only relating to a real person, but to the activation of an archetypal image that lives in our unconscious. The intensity of attraction, the sense of completeness, the feeling that no one understands us like they do, all this reveals that the anima or animus has been touched. These inner figures are not merely romantic idealizations. They represent profound aspects of the soul that haven't yet been fully integrated. The anima, for example, manifests relational, intuitive, receptive, and creative qualities in the male psyche. When a man projects his anima onto a woman, he feels she represents something vital, something missing within himself. The same occurs with a woman projecting her animus, symbolizing direction, strength, structured thought, and assertiveness, onto a man. When they meet someone who matches these inner images, the sense of destiny, of reunion, of something transcendent naturally arises. Yet these projections are double-edged. While they reveal potential for integration, they also risk illusion. The person we fall in love with is often not seen in their full reality, but through the powerful lens of the activated archetype. This can generate enchantment, but also disappointment, when the inevitable differences between the inner image and the other's reality emerge. Jung stressed the importance of consciously withdrawing these projections, for only then can the archetypal encounter become an authentic relationship. The role of anima and animus goes beyond romantic love. These figures guide us into dialogue with our inner polarities. They reveal where we are unbalanced, what remains undeveloped, and what we need to embrace within ourselves. Thus, when we feel deeply drawn to someone, we are not only longing for the other, but yearning for parts of ourselves still unrecognized. The right person who appears may therefore be the messenger of an inner journey, leading us back inside toward the encounter with our true self. This figure often appears in moments of crisis, transition, or existential emptiness. They emerge as a symbolic response of the psyche, a call to awaken what is dormant. It is not uncommon that, after such encounters, we revisit life choices, rethink beliefs, and begin a profound process of personal transformation. This happens because the activated archetype carries the power of psychic reorganization. It mobilizes stagnant energies and awakens new possibilities of being. For Jung, integrating anima and animus is essential to individuation. It is not about rejecting the other, but realizing that what we seek is ultimately within. The true encounter happens when we stop expecting the other to complete us and start recognizing in the relationship a mirror and a bridge to our own wholeness. The presence of the right person then becomes a stimulus to develop in ourselves what we most admire or seek outside. This inner movement is what makes such encounters so striking. The soul recognizes something familiar, not in the sense of known, but of essential. The other resonates with the inner image we carry, and thus seems to touch us in layers we didn't know existed. The intensity of the encounter is not about idealized romance, but about the potential for healing, awakening, and growth that it carries. When someone enters our life with such intensity and makes us feel that something far greater is at play, we are not merely facing a strong emotional experience. We are often standing at a turning point in the journey of the soul. Jung called this individuation, the profound and continuous movement of becoming who we truly are, integrating all parts of the psyche, especially those we avoid or reject. And it is precisely in meaningful encounters, with the figure who seems to have been sent to us, that individuation can accelerate powerfully. These encounters are not gentle, they are provocative. The right person, the one who arrives with the force of an archetypal symbol, doesn't come to comfort us, but to transform us. They stir up our defenses, our fears, our hidden desires, our contradictions. In doing so, they confront us with our shadow, the repressed, forgotten, or denied side of ourselves. This confrontation can be painful, but it is essential, for without facing the shadow, there is no real growth. Individuation demands the courage to recognize all that we are, including what we would rather not admit. For Jung, the shadow is not just the negative or dark side. It is everything not yet integrated into consciousness, whether qualities repressed out of shame, unresolved traumas, or even talents and creative impulses that don't fit social expectations. When we project these parts onto another, especially someone with whom we share a deep connection, both admiration and conflict arise. The other then becomes the truest mirror of our incompleteness, and it is this intensity that reveals the transformative nature of the encounter. The right person, in this context, is not merely someone with whom we have chemistry or affinity. They become an agent of change, a symbolic catalyst that accelerates our inner awakening. It is through relating to them that we are challenged to let go of masks, to question limiting beliefs, and to face our wounds. What begins as fascination may evolve into frustration, anger, or pain, but all of it is part of the psychic alchemy of individuation. Nothing that transforms us deeply comes without some degree of discomfort. Jung said individuation is like a journey back to oneself. Often, this return begins when someone outside shows us, without conscious intent, who we truly are within. Love, in these cases, is not an end but a path to the self, the organizing center of the psyche, where light and shadow are integrated. The relationship becomes a kind of alchemical laboratory, where through friction, the fragmented self is transmuted into a more whole, conscious, and authentic self. It is important to understand that the presence of the other does not resolve our journey, but reveals it. When the other activates our unconscious, we are faced with choices: remain unconscious, repeating old patterns, or dive into the inner work needed to transcend them. The right person is not the one who removes our problems, but the one who forces us to face them. They shine a light on what was hidden, and this process can either liberate us or paralyze us, depending on how willing we are to look inward. Integration of the shadow is only possible when we become aware of its existence. Most of the time, this happens in moments of conflict, crisis, or strong emotion, precisely what transformative encounters provoke. At that point, the relationship ceases to be just an emotional experience and becomes a field for inner work. Every disagreement, every frustration, every moment of enchantment is an opportunity to see where we are projecting, where we are resisting, where we are stuck. In the end, the other is an involuntary guide. They don't know and don't need to know the role they are playing in our psyche, but the soul knows. It recognizes the moment. It understands the depth of the experience. And when we are willing to listen to that call, transformation occurs. The encounter becomes a rite of passage, a turning point, a place of no return. From that moment on, we are no longer the same. Not because the other changed us, but because we allowed them to show us what was most hidden within. This is the true gift the right person brings, not completion, but awareness, not perfection, but wholeness. When someone appears in our life as if they were sent, the impact is not only emotional, but reaches deep levels of the psyche. The intensity, the signs, and the symbolic force of the encounter are not coincidences. They are responses of the unconscious, movements of the soul toward wholeness. Through the activation of complexes, the projection of inner images, the manifestation of anima or animus, and the confrontation with the shadow, we are propelled into an individuation process that could never occur in isolation or comfort. These encounters are not about finding the missing half, but about awakening the whole that already exists within us. The right person does not come to fill a void, but to reveal our forgotten fullness. If you felt this content touch something in you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That is the best way to keep accessing material that speaks to your soul. And take a moment to watch the video now appearing on screen. It will take you even deeper into your journey of self-discovery. Your transformation begins when you decide to no longer ignore the signs,